There's nothing worse than a black white supremacist.
You're hanging out in the House of Sunny podcast, where it's always sunny, mostly because of your host, comedian and YouTuber, Sunny Loman. Want to know what Sunny and her friends are thinking about this week? Well, here she is, Sunny Loman.
Hey everybody, welcome to the House of Sunny podcast. We are back after a few weeks off, maybe a month even. I think this is it's been 3 weeks. This is week 4. And I'm here with Doug, but he's naked, so he doesn't want to be on camera.
Well, no, if I was naked, I would want to be on camera. I'm fully clothed. That's the problem.
You're wearing some dorky outfit.
Yeah.
You don't want people to see.
Yeah, they banned me from being naked. So
You've never tried that on this show, though. We might get extra views.
what's the opposite of
Look
a view?
what it did for Jeffrey Toobin. I didn't even know his name before he.
Yeah, that's true.
Before he got naked on Zoom.
No publicity is bad. Any publicity is good publicity.
And
right?
he's gross. I mean, he's not. It's not like I was aware of that because some hot guy got naked on Zoom.
Yeah, if that was Tom Brady, that would have been a total positive.
You're right.
Oh, all right, yeah, woo.
Oh, okay, yeah. Tom Brady got it. Okay, cool, yeah.
But if it was Toobin, it was gross. Oh my god,
well,
exactly. A pervert.
I mean, the only reason you get called a pervert is if you're kind of chubby and weird. Right.
Yeah, when I walk down the street now, when I was in my 20s, girls would kind of occasionally look at me and kind of just, you make eye contact or whatever. And, it was normal and kind of, just sort of normal human relations. And now as I've gotten older, if I walk by a girl and she makes eye contact, it's gross.
Oh, it's
no,
gross.
No.
You're like, what is wrong with you?
The look on her face is oh my God.
No
gross.
Way.
Yeah.
Stop it.
Yeah, girl, especially young girls are what are you looking at? You it's
that's funny.
Oh boy. Yeah. Things have changed.
As an older woman, I'm getting older, and it does change. Even if I'm looking my best, I don't get the kind of attention I got when I was 25,
Right.
I mean, it's just the best is over. So
yeah,
the new normal.
The good thing about it though is I'm
older woman.
Yeah, I mean there's something to that. I think as you get older, then there's two good things. One is as you get older women start getting into your view. Whereas when you were 28 or something, it was oh my God, that woman's 38. Gross. I wouldn't date her, and now it's oh, she's under 65. Okay.
Right.
It's reasonable.
It's true. My perspective
Weird.
is morphing too, where old guys are kind of attractive to me now.
It's very psychological.
Have an older man who's taking care of himself. He's, salt and pepper, whatever. I'll look at that and I'll go, oh yeah, that's nice. But never would have thought that.
Yeah.
Years ago.
Gross. This is kind of gross.
Yeah. Getting older. So I'm just going to briefly say the news about the cat news, which you already know about. But Nico died and he was hit by a car. So it was very sudden. He died without suffering. And anyways, I'm still adapting. I can't talk about it or I'm going to cry because I'm still getting over it. I'm pretty upset about it. He was just the greatest cat. And, you have these pets once in a while that you really connect with. And then you have other pets that you love, but it's just not really the same. I think there are these kind of rare, charismatic pets or pets that have just the right personality for you. And Nico was definitely one of those cats. And he was 14. So he wasn't, he lived a good cat life. And we had a nice little funeral on Sunday, buried him in the garden. And so no more Nico stories except reminiscing. And I might talk about him in the future, just kind of tribute to Nico, but I can't do it today or I'll cry. So
Right. Well, sorry to hear that.
Yeah, thanks. I'm sure lots of people can relate. They're special pets.
Sure.
So
Absolutely.
we could do a royal report. Let's start with the royal report, and then we're going to get into Rittenhouse and some of these other things. And it's been a few weeks, so we have lots to talk about. The last couple shows we did, we got a lot of comments. I mean, we could even just get into that, but I don't know that we will. Let's just talk current issues for now. And
Well, hold on a second before, you could just summarize the last 2 years, and what's going on right now is left crazy, hypocritical, completely insane, off the reservation, anti-American. Okay, so what are the issues? Just
yeah,
whatever's
do we even
going
need
on,
to
just
do
put
the
that.
show? Let's
Not
just
really. Like, what has changed?
nothing has changed.
Our show is not
You
working.
know, do you know? Well, how do you know that? We may have changed some minds, but at minimum, I think for me, I remember when I started doing my comedy videos and stuff, and and I thought, am I trying to change minds? Am I trying to, what am I doing? Who's my audience? And I thought primarily, especially with the comedy, my audience was people on the right. This was back in 2010. I had this whole I went through this thinking. This is before I always knew I was on the right. I don't know who these freaking liberty people are who think that they're in between the left and the right, or they're on the left, or they're leftish. I mean, if you're left, you're a fucking totalitarian. I'm sorry. And the
Yeah.
only people for freedom are on the right. The question is, where on the right are you? So I always knew I was on the right. And for me, what it feels like to be on the right is it just can be so lonely, and you need to laugh at them, and you need to have camaraderie with other people. And this theme keeps coming up in our shows where I keep saying, join a group, be friends. You've got to feel like you belong to something, and that there are people who are with you. It is too hard to fight this. And this feeling, we don't need to be alone, and we're not alone. There are so many of us, and they do such a good job because they own all the infrastructure. They're doing a great job making us feel like we're fringe, and we're not. At least half the population. I mean, you could argue that it's pretty upsetting that half is not on our side. That is the challenge that we're dealing with right now. But we're not fringe. Mm-mm.
Well, Biden has like a 30-something% approval rating. So I think
Yeah.
we're very much in the majority. And if
Yeah.
you even look at the celebrities, just start counting up the celebrities. It's almost like they're running out of celebrities there's not going to be anybody left, because there's so many, starting with the Joe Rogans and, the kind of the podcaster pundit world, Adam Carolla, people like that are like, have given the finger to that whole world.
Yeah.
And then even like more conventional celebrities that they've tried to go after that,
I love that they're trying to go after Joe Rogan in such a big way lately, because it's like, oh, this isn't going to go over well.
Yeah. Or even Aaron Rodgers,
Yeah.
who's sort of who came out with a really thoughtful take on the whole thing, and was just pilloried. And he's I'd say he's a liberal kind of a guy.
Yeah.
And that's fine, but he's totally being independent minded about this. Like, it's my body. I'll decide what I want to put in it. I've done a lot of research. I've talked to a lot of people, blah, 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 the whole thing that we would agree with.
Yeah.
And I was like, that is awesome. So when you're the left and you're losing, like Bill Maher,
Yeah.
and you've lost, like Joe Rogan and Aaron Rodgers, and these are not small people that you are losing, and you are totally turning against. Glenn Greenwald is against you.
I know you've lost everybody with any integrity and any you just lost so many people of clout.
They've lost Alan Dershowitz.
Yeah.
The most famous trial lawyer, in decades, who's totally, you can tell he's a civil libertarian his entire life. He's like a defense attorney, and he's he's the one who's saying Rittenhouse should go and sue all these people. I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. So yesterday there was a live, sorry, woo. I guess you guys can't hear that. I didn't share my screen. I'm trying to find this video of Meghan Markle and Harry arriving at this veterans gala because it's just hilarious.
Oh, I think I saw this picture.
I don't want to show a picture. I actually want to show the arrival because the way she acts with Harry, it's so freaking hilarious. Let me just put Freedom Gala. First of all, so yesterday, not Tim Cook. Who's the journalist guy? Tim Pool, another a four-letter OO word. Tim Pool did a podcast out of an RV. He must be in like Texas or something, out of an RV. And guess who was there? Michael Malice, Alex Jones, and Joe Rogan.
Oh yeah, I saw some of this.
All in the same room with Tim Pool. And anyway, I think I haven't watched all of it. I watched about.
Is that where Rogan said the left is a cult? That was like the big headline. He was like,
I don't know. I don't know. Cult. I didn't hear him say that. I watched 45 minutes live and it was pretty awesome. And it's like 2 hours and something. And I'm definitely going to watch the whole 2 hours. And I was just thinking as I was watching it, who doesn't want to be a part of this club?
Right.
Oh my God, the cool kids are all in this RV having a conversation, and there isn't a person on earth who wouldn't want to be in that RV having that conversation, except really jealous, weird, creeps who are envious of their success because they're having this like super, they're arguing and they're having this, conversation and they're laughing and they're arguing and they're praising each other and then they're disagreeing with each other. And it's just, that is the way. Do you remember when we were young and we were in the Objectivist Club at the University of Minnesota and we used to get into arguments and people disagreed and then I would go to like the public meetings and people would come in and disagree with us. And it was kind of fun and it was lively and exciting and intellectually really stimulating. And all of that is over because of woke PC bullshit. And this like thing where we can't disagree anymore and we can't have conversations and discuss. And that goes for even among people that I used to agree with. I just find conversations so unpleasant. And remember what it used to be like. And I'm watching this thing and I'm thinking they're doing it and they're cool. And this can't lose. This can't lose as long as what's missing is like the culture's turning. I really feel that way. Like you said, with celebrities, the culture is turning and it's only going to it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger every year. I believe, I've been watching it for 12 years pretty closely. It's so big now compared to what it was in 2010. So many people of talent and ability, so many cool people are now on board. And that can't lose eventually, but what's needed is like, and we don't have this yet, and politics is downstream of culture. So I'm trying to remember that, but I just want tough leaders and they're not there. We have like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who I didn't know was such a smart person because she's characterized as a buffoon with these, they had her like, oh, she's got these fringe conspiracy theory views. I mean, they just really got her good in the press. But I saw her on that hour interview with Tucker on his Nation show, and she's smart. And she's also really just uncompromising and really tough, willing to introduce legislation that's more like a right-sided squad that we've talked that we need, like a squad that fights back in the same way that the left squad fights, pushing the bar to make people on the right tougher. So we just need more Marjorie Taylor Greens and Trump's, for that matter, just direct, really badass language, no guilt, willing to stand alone, willing to put up, and hopefully they don't have to. Even crazy people like Lynn Wood, like I want to see more just uncompromising. No, F you, where, you want to get rid of cows. I want twice the cows,
It struck me that, did you see that Liz Cheney got like booted out of the Wyoming Republican
Yes,
Party? They
I did.
voted.
I did.
And I was thinking, when I saw that, what came to mind was that Liz Cheney really is not the anomaly. I think she has been the Republican Party for so many years. She is the Bush, Romney, Cheney, Paul Ryan type Republican. And they are the problem. They're the ones who, that the establishment Republicans, the ones,
they're still in control. They're still in control.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean is like, we see her as, oh, she's this like kook and they finally booted her out. But no. I think she represents more the mainstream.
I do too.
And I even see it in my local Republican circles here, is there's like these two sides of
locally. Absolutely. You see that. You see this
like the Rotary Club Republican,
And of course, the Liz Cheney type of Republican is still in charge. I mean, McCarthy in the House is that way, and McConnell in the Senate is that way. So the leadership and those people get voted into their position by the rest of the members. So of course, Liz Cheney represents mainstream GOP, the ones in control, and that has to change. We're not going to get anywhere until that changes. This guy who won in Virginia, I'm like, whatever, he's a total Romney GOP. You can tell looking at him. He's just a dork. He's just one of these compromising buffoons.
Well, this happened in 2010 when it was like, God, the Democrats are so awful. And you have this huge wave and it's a big red wave and the Republicans take both houses of Congress. And it's like, gosh, they're going to take over the White House and the Supreme, and oh my God, they took over all the state legislatures. And it's like, God, we finally did it, and then nothing happens. It actually gets worse.
Right. And we never got our Obamacare repeal, which is the reason that all of that even happened. Right. We didn't get it.
Can't figure it out. Just cannot figure out how to get rid of it. Can't stop any legislation, can't stop spending, can't cut any department of government, can't do anything. Yeah. And that's why I've just realized that they are not the solution. They will never, yes, we need Republicans right now because they will stop the madness and the insanity of what the left is trying to do. But they are, even if they sweep in a year in the midterms, it's not going, it'll hopefully just slow things down.
Not.
But they're
like
not
when we win an election, I'm like, big deal. Even Trump, like he didn't do anything. I mean, culturally, he did something. That's it. Politically, nothing changed.
Well, that's why I like to see. Yeah. What you just said though, culturally.
Yeah.
It sparked this conversation we're having right now, which is no, we got to escalate this. This is Trump. We cannot go through this again.
Trump gave people a view of that guiltless, like common sense, guiltless, pushing back on PC culture, on woke culture. And since then, there's been an avalanche of people on the right who are doing that. So he really unleashed an attitude. And people on the left picked it up too, like people who would have been on the left but aren't really anymore, like people like James Lindsay, who fights CRT with the same just guiltless, unabashed, no, I'm not racist and I'm not falling for this stuff. And,
right.
I don't think he's possible before Trump. Not really. Not like he is and not appreciated.
Well, I think it's possible that's why the left reacted so vehemently to Trump. I think they just sense that this is not something they want. The guiltless, uncompromising right-wing guy is not what they want. They want the Romney, tepid, apologetic, shameful, guilt-ridden kind of Republican. because they push them around and they bully them. And they saw these deplorables coming out to these rallies and they were like, uh-oh, no, that's not what we want to be. And they just went nuts, and they probably were right to go nuts.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think by the same token, we are seeing a similar. Do you remember in Atlas Shrugged how she talked about this focus point shifting? And Dagny's like, I feel like there's this focus that shifts and then someone goes down and then the focus kind of shifts. And that's what I feel about the left. And like right now, the focus is Rittenhouse. And I think this trial means a lot to them. And I think Tucker nailed it. And I've heard other people say this, that it's really about, and they've done other things to create this feeling of you're not allowed to defend yourself. It's really important that we be disarmed. So like, they're doing all kinds of things. They're attacking guns, all our Second Amendment rights, all around here's the repeal of the Second Amendment. They can't do that. They know they can't do that. So they're attacking it on all fronts, including like, making ammunition more difficult to get, or like, just, they just like 1,000 cuts to destroy our Second Amendment rights. What good does it do you if you have a gun, but you don't have the right to use it? If you're going to get arrested for protecting your family and yourself, exercising your Second Amendment rights, what's the point of even owning the gun? So they're disarming us any way they can. If Rittenhouse loses this trial, it has a chilling effect. Just the fact that he was arrested, they don't even need to win. Now, if, young Kyle Rittenhouse thought that he was protected by law doing what he did. He thought he was doing everything legal and he was trying to help people and do that safely and protect his community, and he was doing it lawfully, but he still got arrested. And those people in St. Louis who came out and like had their guns and said, don't come up here, we're armed and we'll shoot you, they got arrested. And
The show trial.
They don't need to win. And when you look at what this prosecution has done, they don't care. They don't care if they win. They don't care if it's a mistrial. They don't care if he loses on appeal. Like, if he wins, if they win and then they lose on appeal because they did so many shitty things and railroaded this kid. Like now it's coming out that they withheld evidence and that, like all this stuff is coming out now that the trial's over. I don't know if you heard that.
Yes.
So they don't really care. And just watching too the coverage, the arguments are so stupid, Hey, everybody gets beaten up sometimes. Does that mean you get to shoot people? Yeah, it fucking does. Don't attack an armed man if you don't want to get shot, Like, do they bear any responsibility?
Or don't point a gun at an armed man.
Or don't point a gun at the head of an armed man.
During a riot.
Bash his head in twice with your skateboard, maybe.
Well, yeah, while the city's burning and you're looting and rioting and someone has a gun, probably not best to point a gun at someone in that circumstance.
And I think back to the LA riots with the Koreans on the roof, and those people would be arrested today. You're not allowed to defend your businesses. I remember when all that shit was going down last summer, I'm thinking, why aren't any looters being shot? Because I thought all these businesses have guns under the counter, like where's the American way of, I'm going to defend my business and my home. And instead people just let it happen. They've left.
And where are the trials of all those people that were burning the city
there's
down?
no
and
trials.
looting? Where's the trial of the governor of Wisconsin that didn't call out the National Guard and allowed a situation like that to exist?
Where's the trial of the governor of Minnesota who allowed a police precinct to be burned down?
No, they pick out the one supposedly right-wing guy
who
defended himself. The guy who defended, he's the one that's on trial.
Yeah.
Not any of this other stuff.
Right. So,
which is like you're saying, that's a win for them in and of itself. It's a win
because now we all know. And I think I know I live in California. I think about that all the time. I'm legally armed, but if somebody broke into my house and I shot them, I know I would be in trouble. I know I'd be in trouble. It
Yep.
would, maybe I'd get arrested. I'd have to fight, who knows? But they're not going to be happy about me defending my home against a burglar. I'd probably have a civil lawsuit too. I mean, I would pay consequences for defending myself.
Well, the most fitting way to encapsulate this too is, what is the left saying right now? They're saying, if a jury finds Rittenhouse innocent of vigilantism, we're going to take the law into our own hands. I mean, isn't that like
Can't
perfect?
do
Isn't
that. Only we can do that.
Yeah. How dare he needs to be arrested for vigilantism, or we're going to burn the city down and take the law into our own hands and kill him.
Right. Meanwhile, it
That's
was
perfect.
because they were taking the law into their own hands, supposedly. I mean, please, they don't give a shit. They were not out there for justice. They were out there for looting and mayhem. And the people, when you look at the rap sheets of the guys involved in this incident, we're talking about the worst people in the world.
Yeah.
The worst people in our society were part of this riot and looting.
Well, the guy he shot was a child rapist.
Child rapist. And I think another guy got outed today. Another guy involved in the thing got outed with a long rap sheet that nobody talked about. Let's see if I can find that.
Yeah, and that's what Rogan and those guys were talking about, was just how the media has controlled this narrative, and they've literally just lied about the entire circumstances in order to gin up angst and cause a riot. That's what they want.
Yeah. So that's the important thing. And I think, so I hope he wins. That's great. But nevertheless, what they've done they've already won in a sense, just by being able to arrest him and put him on trial and go through this thing. They've won in the short term. However, this is one of those cases where it is converting swaths of people over to the right, or at least the people are waking up to the media lies and are a little freaked out by this situation. I saw a lot of stuff where people were like, oh, I didn't realize that he attacked white guys. I thought they were black people. And then I didn't realize that it wasn't an illegal gun. And this whole narrative of he crossed state lines. Have you seen how close Antioch is to Kenosha? It's like a literal suburb. It just happens to be.
Well, suddenly the liberals care about state lines. Borders are just a line on a map, man.
Right. Nobody cares about state lines, but literally it's like, I'm trying to think of an example that's even similar. But you have to live in
if you're from a foreign country, you can cross national lines. But if you live in northern Illinois and you go 3 miles across the,
you know what it's like?
State border, no.
It's like you live in St. Paul and you went to protest in Minneapolis, and supposedly, well, he crossed the Mississippi. It's like some arbitrary. St. Paul is like a 20-minute drive from Minneapolis.
The Rubicon.
That's how close. It's the same community. Nobody says Minneapolis and St. Paul are two different cities, but they're right next to each other. They're literally the same metro area.
We are in the same country. That's important.
And we are in the same country. And last time I checked, it's a free country and you get to take your freaking gun and go protect a community, even if you're from a different state. Who cares?
Yeah, but he even had relatives there and stuff. So, I mean, there was even on that count.
What I'm trying to say is where he lived is there. It's a suburb of there. It's the same metro. It just overlapped over the borderline. That's what I'm trying to say is this isn't like he drove to a different town. He lives 20 minutes from where he was.
Yeah.
It just happens to be across the borderline.
Yeah. So the media lies. I mean, they've lied.
He's 20 minutes from there. He's in a suburb of Kenosha. That's where he lives. And then his dad, grandma, uncles, cousins live in Kenosha. So, but it didn't matter. He still lives in Kenosha. He lives in Kenosha Metro. So that's what I'm trying to say is Minneapolis Metro includes the suburb of Bloomington and Burnsville. And you know what I'm saying? So it's like that. It's just like you drove in from a suburb. So anyway, the I think it's definitely exposing some people to how bad the lies are, because the narrative is so gross and distorted. And people, it emboldens people like Joe Rogan and stuff and Tim Pool to even talk more about how dishonest the media is. You know, just this example so egregious that people who sort of talk about that can talk more fully about that. I think it's actually more and more you realize that these are the death throes, in a way, the beginning death throes of the left. It's not them actually amassing more power. It's them
It's the
holding
mask
on to
slowly coming off.
it's them desperately holding on to power. And that feels worse because it's getting worse for us day to day, but it's either the beginning of them really taking over, or it's the beginning of the end.
What do you
Yeah.
think, after Virginia, and in light of all the stuff that's happening and you can feel the culture shifting, what do you think their strategy is? Because you think, like, if the Clintons were in power, they famously pivoted in the 90s when they lost the midterm elections and the Republicans took the Congress and everyone was pissed, and they famously pivoted, and Clinton basically became a Republican for a couple of years. And they won a second term, and these people seem to be like, no, we know we're going to lose, red wave coming, let's just get crazier and double down. That's what I'm seeing in their policies and the nominations they're putting out there. It doesn't seem like they're changing course at all, just on a political level. What do you think they're going to do for the next year?
I think they're going to, I mean, when you see Joe Biden go into office and surround himself with guards and then purge the military, I think the vaccine mandates are a great way to purge the federal government and the military of people on the right, without it being ideological, supposedly. I I think that they are going to grab power. I think they're going to try to grab full power. I think they're going to crash the economy, and I think there's going to be more craziness, way more craziness.
Do you think they'll go more towards doubling down
I
rather
think they'll
than
double down.
we got to settle down here and moderate?
What
Like James
alternative do they have?
Carville has been out there saying these people are nuts. These woke people, we're losing the elections.
Yeah.
He's always been, I hate James Carville, but he's always been like the voice of moderation. He's kind of an old school Democrat.
Yeah. He's an old school Democrat.
They've lost James Carville.
Yeah, no one's listening to him. And Sarah Hoyt, that sci-fi author who's also on the right, and she writes a lot of blog posts just about culture and stuff like that. She wrote a series, there was a couple weeks where it was on her mind, and she was writing a lot about just how incompetent and stupid this group of communists is. And just I think that's true. And she's like, we're dealing with fourth generation communists. Fourth generation. So since communists hate merit and are just a bunch of envious creeps, what is the fourth generation like? It's dumb people. It's really people who are mentally ill, people who are not really good at anything. I mean, there's definitely some cleverness to their operations, but they can't lead and run things, They're probably very emotional. They're just reacting. And I think you're dealing with kind of like, what would a narcissist do? A narcissist would double down. A narcissist doesn't know when to, they don't admit that they're doing something wrong. They don't have empathy. They're not even able to like pull back and stop being a narcissist for 5 minutes before everybody figures it out. Like
Yeah.
people with
No, they blame everybody else.
yeah, people with personality. Look at Meghan Markle. You're like, Meghan, if you just hold on, if you just back off a little, you could actually have this really nice life with lots of power. Just don't do that next thing that you're about to do, And I swear to God, I don't know if you guys, Josh Slocum does that podcast, the disaffected podcast or something, where he just says, we're just like being led by cluster B personalities. And he goes through the evidence of that all the time. And I think that's true. I think a lot of these people have mental disorders. I mean, everybody I meet on the left seems to have a mental disorder of some kind or another lately.
Well, I was I was driving by Target, and there was a woman with blue hair walking outside by herself with a mask on. And I thought,
Yeah.
that's the left
Yeah.
right there. Blue hair, wearing a mask by herself outside.
Terrified of the air.
That's mental illness.
They're mentally ill. And COVID has really pushed a lot of people over that edge, like who are sort of getting by, taking their SSRIs and high functioning people with
you can manage in the economy
with a lot of depression and anxiety and mental illness, but working and interacting with people and kind of,
there's some pushback on you and some
you
connection with reality that's just forced on you.
And then COVID and then lockdowns and isolation and the whole culture kind of allowing for the OCD and the fear. And it's almost like it's
rewarding it. Wash your hands.
Yeah.
Don't touch your face.
Mm-hmm. So those people, their mental illnesses are not getting any reality check or pushback from social pushback. And I think people have gotten crazier. I'm seeing that in my own interactions with people. And then you have people who have flipped because of all this. Like they don't want to live that way. They see that it's fear mongering, and they've now stepped away and the mask has been pulled off their eyes and they're now seeing more clearly the people in charge and the media and just their whole racket. But I do think like a lot of these people in the media or whatever who are doing the fear mongering, I think they're really afraid. I was thinking about that Amesha Jala guy who's like this objectivist who is a central planner in medicine. I don't even want to say he's an objectivist, but he's embraced by a lot of objectivists. And when I did kind of this, I was reading a bunch of stuff that he wrote and I was watching some videos at one point and I was like, this guy's a germ freak. I think that, I'm not a doctor. I'm just like, I'm reading between the lines and the stuff that he's saying. He thinks people are dirty and wants to clean them. I just get this feeling from him. He thinks, he's obsessed with like, if only we just vaccinate every germ and virus from everybody and, and we make everybody clean, then we'll all be safe. And there's a pathology to this that
it's like Platonism.
Yeah, right. It's Platonism in that only he wants
perfect form
he wants to bring that into reality. If only every human wasn't covered in microbes. And
well, my mother is a germ freak and always has been. And you can just hear it in her analysis of just everyday life, how she thinks, where she doesn't understand how our immune system works and that we're covered in germs and microbes and bacteria all the time. And our immune system, like that's how our immune system operates. It's got to be exposed to all this stuff. She literally thinks that she can clean everything, like everything, like it's sort of like Monk, the television show. You can see that pathology where you literally think that you are killing all the germs and there are no more germs. It's gone. It's like a total disconnect from reality.
Yeah.
And it is a form of, it's almost it's a form of religion almost, where you have this delusion of pureness and purity.
I feel like it's worse than a religion because
Yeah, it's a mental illness,
yeah,
obviously, by definition.
I mean, a person who's really religious doesn't seem as mentally ill as this. And to kind of, the way human bodies work is they work in symbiosis with germs. I mean, you just can't not have, you need them. You need germs and bacteria to live. We've evolved to need them in our guts and on our skin, and
Yeah.
and if you think about it, I guess it seems kind of creepy if you want to sit and think about the fact that you have little tiny bugs everywhere. But
No, they don't think that. I don't think they
it's
realize
it's
that.
it's reality, and it's almost like it is a mental illness to obsess about it. I mean, you just can't, because you can't not be dirty in that sense. And yeah, the hand washing and the sanitizing, and anyway. So I think that we're being led by a bunch of, and the celebrities that are really hardcore left who come out with in real strong support of the left politically, I feel like the more time goes by, we see that they're mentally ill people too. They're the ones that have depression and anxiety and end up
Alec
coming
Baldwin.
out. Alec Baldwin, who, he's got the wife who lies about having an accent.
Yeah.
His wife faked a Hispanic accent. Did he not realize that was happening? Of course he did. And he's fine with it. And I mean, that's weird. You got to wonder what your home life is like when your wife is like that and, you're accepting it. But then you go on TV every weekend and poke fun at Trump for being dumb. And, but just like, who was it, that John Legend's wife, Christy Teigen, or whatever her name is, Chrissy Teigen. And she came out as being a bully, and then talked about her depression and anxiety. And she's really just a narcissist, which is a personality disorder. It's a defense mechanism. That doesn't mean she's great or something. That means that she's hurting so badly that she's throws up these defenses, these narcissistic defenses.
How about Ellen?
Yeah, Ellen, she's mean. I mean, like, all these leftists turn out to be
They're monsters.
Nuts. They turn out to be Lady Gaga with self-harm and depression, and I was raped, and like, they all have fucking pathology. They all have like trauma and messed up psychologies. The Harvey Weinstein thing, like, all of these people allowed themselves to be essentially abused for their careers. And
yeah, because fame was more important to them than,
yeah, or even if maybe they didn't make that conscious choice, but they are insecure enough, they allowed someone to abuse them and then accepted the rewards that they got for that, and then continued to allow themselves to be abused. Or, at some point, I'm sure it was sort of a choice. Like, you can either walk away and go get a Walmart job in Ohio and work in your county theater, or you can stay here and continue to be raped, and it's not technically rape, but continue to be used sexually and, be under that kind of pressure. Ugh, gross.
but they're good at telling us how to run our lives.
Oh yeah. It was so funny. Like, I saw one thing that really stands out to me was watching Miley Cyrus on Joe Rogan a year ago or so. Right after he flipped over to Spotify, she was on, and she was going through all of this like horrible stuff that she's experienced, how she's lost her voice permanently, probably due to excessively abusing it with late nights, partying, singing too much too often, not taking care of herself, and living hard. She's lost the thing about her that made her really special. She's got this mullet haircut. She looks like shit. She's ugly. She's pretty, but she's uglifying herself. And then she's talking about how she has to go to this clinic and have her brain waves checked, and how she's trying to repair her brain from drug use and from
Sounds promising.
trauma. And then after telling all of that junk, she says how she wants to write children's books because she, thinks that this sexual freedom and stuff is so great, and how she really wants to be able to convey that to kids so that they don't grow up with like prudish attitudes and stay. And I'm like, are you listening to yourself? Like, no, you're actually not living it right. You're not doing it right. You should not.
Yeah,
I've
completely destroyed my own life and everybody around me in a sea of of pathology. So what should I do? Teach
kids.
Teach others how to live.
And it was such a weird, like,
It's why I love Jordan Peterson's,
yeah,
like clean your closet idea, because people laugh at that or whatever, but it is so true.
yeah.
Like, these are people that are so screwed up. And what do they do?
They really are. These are the worst people. They're wrecking their own lives. And definitely we should not, when we hear them talk, we should be like, well, that's cute. Call me when you've straightened yourself out and you are happy, because you're not happy. And you're saying you're not happy. I'm depressed. I mean, they wear it like a fucking badge. I'm depressed and sad, and I'm cutting myself, and I'm making myself look uglier and uglier and uglier every year. And
that's their currency.
I'm confused about my sexuality now. And in fact, I might take some hormone blockers, which might affect my mood even further. And but let me tell you how to live.
Well, that's the
and let me tell you politically what the right thing to do is for all of society.
Well, because that's the essence of postmodernism too, is that, only personal experience matters. So the more crazy you are, then the more currency you have to then go tell other people about your experiences.
I don't know why there's this idea that just less and less value and control and self-control and happiness, like the more we get away from anything that makes life worth living, the more progress, the more cool, the more like, oh, humans have progressed beyond needing to value family. We're so cool and progressive that we're alone and isolated and miserable and depressed. It's like, when do people connect and go, this isn't progress, this is actually regression and degeneration of a society? It's not progress. Progress would be figuring out how to have those values. Like it's like with women, men and women. How can men and women have equality but not give up the values of femininity and masculinity and the recognition of reality there, the recognition of what fulfills a woman and what fulfills a man? How can we respect and support those qualities, as well as the greater family and community kind of being there for those people? And when they start having kids and that difficulty and craziness, like, how can we have those old traditional understandings and have women who can be fully fulfilled? You know what I mean? Like, that would be progress. It wouldn't be, oh, let's just free it all up and do whatever the hell. And women are miserable and men are miserable and nobody wants to get married anymore because they can't stand each other for more than a couple of years. Because women are jerks to men and men don't know what the hell to do and they've lost their masculinity. So they're like shitty partners too.
Yeah, the effect of feminism is so deep in this regard. We've talked about that a lot, and so is the cultural icons of the aloof, idiot, doesn't care, the sort of bum, like Jeff Spicoli type character, the rebel. Like, why is that a cultural icon? Isn't that kind of strange that that became, when
Yeah.
did that become a cultural icon, that the guy who dismisses and rejects sort of like universal values,
Yeah.
like honesty, integrity. So he's outside the system. He's a rebel. He doesn't care. He's apathetic. Like he's to care about family or life or productivity or anything is square. That seems to all start in the 60s, right around the advent of this postmodern idea that was being
Yeah.
pushed by the new left about, that being being a part of the rat race, or that in itself, participating in the system, was a way of degrading yourself. Just to even be in the marketplace and to be working or doing anything was just a form of degradation, where you were being subsumed by the capitalist system. And so, the cool people and the hippies were all outside that and were rejecting it. And that whole cultural ethos has been with us for 50 years, really. I mean, it's, who are the cool people in movies? It's always the outsider and the rebel, not for good reasons. Like, okay, this guy's rejecting some sort of like awful bureaucracy that's impeding progress in a real way. It's someone who's just rejects all norms, rejects all values, rejects all
Yeah, I guess that's what
universals.
I'm trying to say is, like, I feel like progress would be where you realize what to throw out and what not to throw out.
Right.
No, I mean, there is something soulless about a lot of corporate work. And I would personally rather be a tradesman than go sit in a cube again in a high rise. Like, I would rather do electricity work, or, like go, working with my hands, or even dig ditches. Um, there's something when you're closer to physical work to eat and to earn money that is better than sitting in a corporate office being totally uncreative and treated like you don't matter. You're one of 10,000 employees. Like, there's some truisms, but then they just throw it all out, rather than the progress would be saying, okay, this modern world, we're missing something. How do we get both? How do we have modernization, technology, mass productivity, but not give up the warmth of life,
Yeah. Yeah. It's
And
tough. I mean, I think it's, because so much of this is a false, it becomes a false alternative,
yeah,
where you're either, a hippie, totally outside the system, rejecting all values, or, you're a cog in the wheel of this corporate machine that crushes
right.
everybody.
Yeah, it is
Um,
a false alternative. And so, like, but you're right about, like, how did these people become icons? Why is a woman with a beautiful voice who can sing and who has this adorable, kind of spunky, likable personality degenerating into showing her tits everywhere and dressing like a slut and going from guy to guy to woman to guy to woman to guy and doing a lot of drugs, destroying her life, looking uglier than ever? Why is she a cultural icon? Why are people like, oh yeah, let's support Miley Cyrus? Miley Cyrus is cool. How is she cool? She's a total fucking loser. She lost everything.
yeah,
Why is she cool?
right.
Why is
Exactly.
Lady Gaga cool? Lady Gaga's a miserable, angry, weird person.
Because I think modern femininity, obviously, it's a rhetorical question, but modern feminism, creates icons in this way, because these women are truly supposedly independent, and they're rejecting all these sort of like traditional feminist or feminine qualities that we would like, you
Yeah.
know, the warmth and nurturing and being a woman and being you know, uh all the attributes that we would attribute to women, and being feminine, and like the
Yeah.
classic 40 star, you know, they're rejecting all that. And I think they get uh you know, they get props from their community or the people around them for rejecting those traditional values. And so, and
Yeah.
I think they ideologically believe, and we've talked about this before, like so many young women are growing up with this idea that um this sort of like role, the traditional role for women is anathema, like it's
Yeah.
just completely evil and
I
wrong. And
I grew up with that idea. I was taught that being a mother was going to be fundamentally unfulfilling. Like literally.
yeah,
Anyway, uh
as if you can't have both. You can't be feminine but also be a strong person and be
yeah.
independent minded and be productive. But you know, you're either you're either an abused wife who gets
Yeah.
stepped on by the patriarchy, or you're this like slutty you know, singer, like living on the edge and, you know, living in the fast lane. That's such a dumb
Yeah.
alternative they're offering young women.
Yes. The most of the messaging out there culturally for young girls right now is be a slut. Literally, be a slut. And anyway, let's talk Meghan Markle now. Let's do a royal report.
Now it's time for the House of Sunny's Royal Watch.
On this note of women, empowered women, you have to watch this video of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle arriving at the Intrepid Museum's 2021 Salute to Freedom Gala. So this is a Veterans Day event.
Oh God.
And she wore, like, literally it's Scarlett O'Hara walking into the birthday party after getting caught hugging another woman's husband. She shows up because Rhett Butler makes her wear a red dress. And she shows up in this whore dress. Anyway, it's one of my favorite scenes of that movie. But here's Meghan Markle. She's wearing a red dress. Everyone else is dressed in black and dark blue. Like all the other women are wearing sort of demure dresses. And she comes, woo, look at me. Anyway, that's not the most interesting part. Also, the dress is ugly. It's weird. It doesn't really fit her right. But look at her behavior with Harry. Hopefully this isn't too pixelated. They're walking, they're holding hands here, and she has a death grip on his hand. And when he goes to shake this guy's hand, you can see her grip harder. She will not let him release her hand. And then later he does it, and you'll just see some body language here that's really, really creepy. And poor Harry, he's such a whipped dog. Okay, they're walking up, death grip on the hand. He goes to shake his hand. He starts to loosen. She clings harder. Then she lets go to shake his hand. She shakes a few hands. Harry's talking. Let's see if you'll get the view where she starts to direct his behavior. She's so fake. I can't stand her.
What's up with, like, she looks really heavy on the
Now
bottom.
look at him. Now look at him. Look at how he gets closer, and she puts her arm out to direct him the way a man does to a woman. Watch. Or a mother does to a child. Oh, they cut it off. Now she's got the death grip on his hand again. Oh, they cut it off, man. She basically,
God, is she gross.
you know how men will put their hand on the small of a woman's back and kind of like Harry just did there. Kind of,
Yeah.
it's a very masculine gesture, a very she does it to him. She's always directing him physically. Here, now, but maybe they'll show it, maybe they won't cut it off.
She's like, I'm done with these idiots. Let's move on.
Yep, she wants to move on.
Let's get to the important people.
Come on, honey.
Come on.
Come on,
Come
honey.
on.
Oh, you're still talking. Okay, all right, I guess.
No, I told you.
Fake smile, fake smile, fake laugh. Let's go. Okay, let's go. I got your hand now.
God, who
She's
would want to live
probably-
in this world?
Look at. She's like, did you just see that? She really wants to leave.
Yeah, she's tired of these people.
Look at her hand.
She's
Now he's
running out of
gonna
small
drop
talk.
her hand and keep talking. And she's like, no, you can't drop my hand. Oh, I guess that was inappropriate. Okay, I'll pretend like I wasn't. Look at her face. She's
Now
not
she's
happy.
pissed. Yeah.
Yep. Come on. I got his hand again. Come on.
Come on, let's move on.
Come
Let's
on.
go. Get... I'm proud of him.
Yeah. She's like his mommy. She's his freaking mommy.
Are you proud of your husband? I'm always proud of him.
Yeah, I wouldn't even answer that question. I'd be like, what a stupid question. Am I proud of Harry as we're walking into a veterans gala? What the hell does this have to do with? Anyway, so she's so horrible. So the great news is, the really funny news about her is, I mean, I follow this way too closely. I'm going to try to recap.
No.
She wrote a letter to her father, like a 6-page letter back when the wedding was going on, that was leaked to the press by him. He gave the press the entire letter because she gave it to 5 friends who leaked portions of it. And he leaked, and then he said, well, these portions are, they're not really representing what went on here. So I'm going to leak the whole letter, or, I'm going to give the press the whole letter. And then she sued the press for publishing it, saying it was copyrighted, that it was her private letter, and they shouldn't have published it. But now it's been shown that she actually wrote the letter knowing that it would be leaked and put in "Dear Daddy" just for sympathy. She called him Daddy because people would sympathize with her more if she referred to him as Daddy. And then that she was actually working with these friends of hers who leaked it before her dad leaked it. So she set her dad up.
Ugh.
Yeah.
She's diabolical.
So then she sued the paper for publishing it and won.
Ugh.
And but then they, on some appeal or something in discovery, got these texts that proved that she knew that it was going to be in the public domain before she wrote it. So she's going to lose now, and she's had to apologize to the court for lying.
What?
Yeah.
So is this like the minutia of this court case that we're not hearing, or is this a big story?
It's a big story. It was out in headlines last week that she lied to the court and she had to apologize.
I thought that was a crime.
But if you don't,
She just says she's sorry.
she said, well,
If we lied to the court, could we just say we're sorry?
I don't recall those conversations. So I didn't really lie. It turns out that it wasn't true, but I didn't lie because really I just didn't remember telling people that it was going to be that it was going to be leaked, and that I don't recall writing this letter in a way that was manipulative, knowing it would be leaked in advance. Like, I mean, it was just ridiculous, right? Everybody knows that she actually crafted the letter knowing it would be leaked.
Of course.
So she set her dad up to make him look bad. And then she had friends leak portions of it that were particularly pulling on the heartstrings and making it seem like he was the one who was doing everything wrong and screwing up. Um so yeah,
Do you think that they'll get divorced? Or
eventually.
you think they will?
Yeah.
Or do you think they'll be together like when they're 90 years old, like
No, I don't
the
think
other ones?
I don't think either of them will deal with that very well. I don't think Megan's going to want Harry when he's totally used up,
And he'll never be king, right?
No.
So there,
Although,
unless the other one dies.
Do you know that she has said we're just one plane crash away from the throne?
Come on. She did
Yeah,
not say that.
She did say that. And she's referring to Harry's brother, who's married with all those kids, that if one plane crash would kill that family, they would be the heirs.
She can only dream.
But can you imagine saying that? One plane crash away.
Yeah, she's
just awful.
What do you think goes on in her mind? She's just plotting schemes to kill. Do you think she would kill the other ones so that she could be queen?
Yeah, if she could get away with it, I do.
I think she does. She would.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I don't think she has. I think she's psycho. Yeah, I don't think she has empathy for other people. I think she's 100% narcissistic with psycho tendencies or whatever they call that.
Yeah, you'd have to be.
Yeah. So anyway, that's the royal report. Kind of funny. Mostly just watching Harry be like, poor. I don't feel sorry for him, especially since he came out recently and he's part of this really creepy. He's joined this really creepy American group called the Aspen Commission or something like that.
Yes.
I mean, we reported this before, but it's this really radical left anti-free speech group. And their main mission seems to be shutting down misinformation.
Yeah, that's what they claim.
And so he came out with a statement recently that's chillingly creepy about how certain people really shouldn't be able to express themselves. I mean, this is the grandson of the Queen of England over in America waxing on about how our First Amendment rights suck. Repeatedly. This is not the first time he's said anything about this.
Right.
So I don't feel too dang sorry for him married to that wench. But
absolutely.
Obviously he is being manipulated and controlled by a very woke, she's not woke like legit. She uses that as a personal power play.
But he's enabled this. I mean, he's the one who brought her.
Oh yeah.
And
she'd
did
be
this.
nothing without him.
But I'm saying he's to blame for all of this. He's the psycho.
Yeah. This is what happens when you raise a weak royal who then can be used by any con person that can get his or her claws on them. So it's the weakness of the royal family, you know?
Now you know why royals were always being killed and there were always plots to kill all these people.
Oh, heck yeah.
Because it's like, God, that person's so awful. Let's just kill him.
Yeah.
And we'll get someone else.
Can we just get rid of him and his wife and stop dealing with this craziness?
I mean, because I think it's just human nature too. Even if they were reasonable, just complacency or familiarity breeds contempt, where you're like, I'm just tired of these people.
1,000 years ago, Harry and Meghan would be plotting to kill William and Kate.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
They would be in a faction that was literally at war.
Hemlock.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh
How would you do it? How would they do it though?
I don't know.
Just
Meghan Markle, is she subtle? She doesn't seem very subtle.
No, she would be spreading hemlock all over the kitchen. Everyone would be riddled with poisons. And
she's a poisoner, except poison is supposed to be where someone dies and you don't get caught killing them. Only she would do it openly.
She would just stab them. You think she would just do it?
Well, poison, but like literally in front of everybody.
I'm queen now.
Yeah. Off with their heads.
But then she would kill Harry, right? She would kill her husband.
Yeah, Harry would die mysteriously. He'd fall down the stairs a couple years later, and
Yeah.
or
So she
not
could
even a
have,
couple years. She'd do it like a few months later because she wouldn't be able to wait.
yeah, she couldn't wait that long.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is, if you look at it in the context of history, it makes a lot more sense. Human nature has never changed, right?
Yeah, that's right.
We somehow feel like it's different because it's modern and it's, really modern Western civilization. But here it's very medieval. What's going on here? You have this, creepy con artist who's taken charge of a weak royal and is manipulating them. I mean, has that never happened before?
Yeah, this is not unprecedented in the annals of court.
Right. Yeah, it's like just court intrigue. And that's like, I love how it was actually Lady Colin Campbell, who got me to think of it in that way, because it's true that she says this isn't gossip, this is living history. That's true. The gossip and the goings on between these people actually does matter because they are part of the leadership of the world.
Yeah, they're a reflection of the culture, and
they have influence, they have power. They are the cultural influencers, the top cultural influencers. And so it's not gossip, it's living history. And when you are able to hold in your mind too, somebody like Meghan Markle, where we just discussed how, if you think about the Joe Bidens and the Kamala Harrises, despite the nice suits, they're just Meghan Markles. They're just kind of narcissist, people with cluster B personality disorders in charge.
yeah, and the more ruthless and the more pathologically ruthless you are, the higher you go in that
They went on a
system.
different path. She went into acting, they go into politics. It's just like, if she'd gone into politics at the age of 20, she'd be a staffer in DC, making her way up through the intrigue of DC, running for office. She'd want to be part of the squad,
Yeah, they're power lusters.
So
The same mentality.
If you can take someone
The desire to
culturally,
control others
yeah,
versus the desire only to independently run your own life and voluntarily cooperate with others versus those that seek to control. That's really what we're facing in the world. That's the difference.
That is the difference. The controlling, fearful, mentally ill people. And what we've missed, I think, what normies have missed, I think of myself as a normie, is how many people are like this. How many people are mentally ill. It's hard to believe so many people could be mentally ill. But then when you look at the statistics of how many people are on depression meds and anxiety meds, you go, oh, and I'm not begrudging people who need that stuff, but if you're living on those drugs, something's wrong. I can see using them as a getting through mechanism so that you don't sink further and like maybe end your life, or, I think it's important to medicate yourself if you need that. But to just live on those meds, which a lot of people do, I think there's something wrong with that. And it's the same as like if you have diabetes and you're 300 pounds, you just keep eating sugar and giving yourself insulin shots. It's like, maybe you should
keep her rolling.
Maybe you should cut the sugar, look
keep
at
the
what
fire
you're
burning.
Look at maybe you're doing something that's contributing to your problem. I have a lot of sympathy for people because of my illness. So I have a lot of empathy for people struggling. But you know what I'm saying? Like, I just think you look at the statistics, you see a lot of people are just kind of mentally ill and unhappy and miserable. And there's something about, I think philosophy can make people that way. Obviously, I mean, what came first, the postmodernism and then the depression? Probably.
I just think people used to drink a lot.
Is that right?
Well, look at the old TV shows and movies and stuff. People are drinking constantly. I think that's how people medicated then.
Interesting.
because it's a depressant. So
Drinking and then maybe getting some kind of therapeutic spiritual support from church,
or just drinking.
just drink. Yeah.
People were bombed. I mean, that generation, I don't know if your grandparents were like that, but they just drank constantly. They just drank and smoked. They were just medicated because there was no, I mean, imagine like the
Yeah.
anxieties and stuff of their lives,
Yeah.
how
World
much
War II.
more
And
serious it was, and the kind of shit that they witnessed.
so what are you saying? You're saying that it's just normal to have this huge portion of human beings miserable and depressed,
Yeah.
but nowadays they're
Well, we also didn't live as long. So I think our brains probably break down. I think there's a lot of chemical imbalance. I think people, as they get older, they have more and more problems. I think people just used to deal with it differently.
interesting.
And you can just watch an old movie. Everybody's drinking all the time.
Yeah, no, that's true. And smoking.
And now no one's smoking, but everyone's on SSRIs.
People drink though still, and they do other drugs.
Yeah.
I do
but
think
not like, hey, okay, visit my office on Wednesday at 3:00 in the afternoon, and we'll have hey, come on in. Yeah, everyone want a drink? Want a highball of whiskey? Like,
I just don't think I buy this. I don't buy this. I don't think that. I think that people I mean, maybe you're right, but don't other studies show, people who are married with kids are happier than people who aren't? And so you have this cultural push to be alone and disconnected and working
totally
a shit job. And it feels like culturally we set people up to be miserable.
Yes, no doubt about that. I think that's,
then they go to college and get coddled. And like you said, the hate says, if we were doing cognitive therapy, we would do the opposite of what we're doing in college, where we're kind of,
rather than facing our fears.
Yeah. We're
and becoming more resilient. We're saying, no, stay away from your fears. Don't wrestle with anything that's slightly uncomfortable.
Yeah. And then you have this victim mentality where people are using mental illness to have an intersectional point, Well,
it's the same kind of thing as avoiding germs. It's the idea that I can avoid any ideas that make me slightly uncomfortable by suppressing them and by avoiding them. And then I'm also going to wear a mask and protect myself from germ people. It's like this whole delusion of just avoiding reality, which is, I think, the real essence of the left, is a desire not to accept reality as what it is, but to try and pretend reality is something else.
And drinking is definitely a reality avoidance activity. But I don't know. I mean, I looked at my grandparents didn't seem particularly mentally ill. They had their problems, but I don't know. They seemed pretty well adapted and relatively content with life.
Yeah.
It's my mom and the boomer generation that seems miserable. So, and even like, I thought millennials were annoying, but I'm starting to think Gen Z is really messed up. Really, really mentally ill stuff going on in Gen Z. All this depression as virtue and sexual gender confusion as virtue. I think I saw a statistic recently that like 30% of high school kids identify as trans or LGBTQ, like some thing on that.
Wow.
Sexually deviant from the norm scale. It's like 30%. I mean,
it's not going to end well.
Well, but it's because it's a virtue. So that's how you get points. Like if you're just a white straight male, you don't have any virtue. You have nothing with which to say I'm important and I matter culturally. You are right. You're, and so I would lie. I would be like, yeah, I'm actually part Indian, and I am really depressed.
I'm Easter Island.
And I'm
Sue.
probably gay. I've never had an experience, but I'm going to be gay today. And then maybe tomorrow I'll change when I want that hot chick to go out with me.
Yeah, because it's the only way you have agency or authority
Yeah.
is once you're a victim, then you can speak on behalf of your victimhood and your victim class. So then you suddenly have agency to
Yeah.
speak in a group. If you're just a normal person, then you're to shut up and just let the
Not
other.
only are you to shut
speak.
up, but you're bad. Like you're literally the bad
Yeah,
guy.
you're privileged. So you're either privileged or
racist.
unprivileged.
And bigoted.
Yes.
You're a bad person because you're normal. So unless you happen to be born with black skin or brown skin.
No, because that doesn't matter, remember, because now black people,
Oh yeah.
we saw that with Winsome Sears' victory,
right.
they literally came out and said blackness is not about black skin. You can still be white.
There's nothing worse than a black white supremacist. Right?
All right.
All right. On that note, thanks for joining us. Follow me on Facebook. I've doubled my followers on Facebook lately, just as I want to leave the damn platform. My followers have doubled. I don't know what to do about that. You can follow me on YouTube at House of Sunny, where you're probably watching this. And Doug, where can people follow you?
The Rational Capitalist Facebook page and theratcap.com.
All right. Hey, everybody. See you next week. Thanks for joining us.
It's filled with satire and fun. It's been the demise of bad ideas, and we'll know what's right when she's done. So download this free podcast now and give perspectives you may lack. It's concise and right and achieves world peace, guaranteed or your money back. Last time, ready?